All right, my name is Zach Hall, and I welcome you to this PowerPoint presentation regarding the article I was given called Piece by Piece How Schools Solve the Achievement Puzzle in SWORD. This article is given by Karin Chenoweth. Now notice the slides were chosen for a reason. See, the rays of light represent inspiration as they come down, and they were given to these schools, which enlighten them to a higher rate of success, what to do to become successful, which Karin Chenoweth calls these schools it's being done schools. First, we have to recognize the problem, which this article brings up. It's an educational problem on a national scale. Essentially, the problem goes along the lines of the old saying, teachers are born, not made, implying that there is not really a body of knowledge and skill that teachers need to master. It's not about that. Um, many the articles suggest that many social studies teachers has been assigned to teach a high school algebra with little more help than airy sentiment. Oh, a good teacher can teach anything. That's what you're supposed to be able to do. Uh, the the so that's the problem. Is the teachers are born, not made. They have to just be good at teaching um, when they come along. That's a slight problem. The other comes along the lines of the Great Divide, which is represented in this article as a difference between high poverty schools and low poverty schools, and the success rates of the students in these schools. Primarily because, as it talks in the article, those in low poverty schools have resources to make up for the lack of teaching. But it gets worse. It's not just about resources. Eventually, these students struggling um, causes kids to arrive behind their peers at lower poverty areas, and they need much more skilled instruction than most middle class kids require. And Karin Chenoweth mentions that the resulting disconnect between teacher hopes and reality leads to endless teacher frustration and is at least part of the reason so many young teachers flee high poverty, high minority schools in search of better kids or abandon the profession altogether, which is sad. That's a terrible problem. It needs to be solved. And so Karin Chenoweth set out to solve the problem, researching all of these schools and those, especially those who were found to be successful on student achievement data. And she found some common steps to soar about these schools, which were said most poignantly by a certain school teacher, Molly Bessinger Lacey, a principal of Graham Road Elementary School in Falls Church, Virginia. These were her 5 ideas: teacher collaboration, a laser-like focus of what we want students to learn, formative assessments, data-driven instruction, and personal relationship building. Those are her ideas, and Karin Chenoweth added on at the end, which I will talk about as well, leadership. These things are critical to the success of schools. So let's break them down. Teacher collaboration. Teacher collaboration is about 4 main principles, the first being time. Pretty much obvious. And the fact is that we recognize, and we need to recognize, that everyone has the same amount of time. So what's different about it being done schools versus the not it's being done schools? Well, in the good schools and the ones that are soaring, they have the message that it has to be captured. Time needs to be captured. They can't let it go, and they make use of all the time they can find available, such as letting students out early on Friday so that the teachers can come together and meet and collaborate. Second to time is the rules of engagement, which itself has three points. And I'll just glance over these. The 3 points suggested are: if you don't say it in the meeting, don't say it in the parking lot. This makes disagreements kind of build. If you're talking outside of the meetings, things in the meetings need to be addressed in the meetings. Focus discussions on the things the school can control rather than what it can't. I think the world would be a lot better off if everyone follow that. And then the third is focus on specific objectives related to instruction. Essentially, this is about um, aiming high, having a specific aim in mind, and then coming together and actually working on that aim. That's the main rule. Third is willingness for the good of the student, willingness for good teachers to collaborate to improve student achievement. Again, this might seem obvious, but it's really important, and the way to accomplish this is done in the interview process, as teachers are interviewed to make sure they will be willing to collaborate and work along with other teachers. And it's essential to weed those out that are not willing to do so, for the main goal to be good for to bring up the students. So, and the fourth is along that lines, common goals. Essentially, teachers need to share the goal that every student be successful. That's the main idea. Every student be successful, and with that common goal and these other thoughts of collaboration, teachers will be able to collaborate more successfully. Which brings us to our next main point, a laser-like focus of what we want to learn, what we want kids to learn. This comes down to the problem that teachers should be the expert in how to teach, not in what to teach. A lot of schools traditionally have left teachers the power to decide what they teach and things like that. Well, that's not what they're really good at. They're really good at teaching and how to teach, and so that's what they should be involved in. This comes to the underlying concept that students, as they graduate high school, should be ready for college or the workplace. Whatever they seem to go in, it needs to be the same preparation for both. And that essentially each require the same preparation, taking on college level courses or going to the workplace and the grind and pound, require the same amount of preparation and the same level. The idea here is to accomplish a national standard, to establish one that all schools can work towards, to make sure that as their kids graduate high school, they've obtained the necessary information, experience, and knowledge to be successful in either of these environments. Next, we go to formative assessments. This is about the SAT, which I call the slow assessment test. According to Karin Chenoweth, the problem with these national standard assessment tests, even though they're informative, is that it takes so long for the schools to get back the information, a matter of months, and by that time, well, the teacher who was in charge of a certain student who might have been struggling in a certain area is now no longer in charge because they've graduated to the next level. So, the principle here to solve is that schools need their own assessment tests, and they can do this such as Lockhart Junior High did. Lockhart Junior High gives weekly core quizzes in the academic core subjects. The magic number is 75%. You drop below that number, you're considered a priority focus, and you're put in rescue classes with master teachers to help figure out the problem and bring you back. Along these lines as well, for formative assessments, teachers need to understand, or schools need to understand, and it's being done, schools do, that it's about test sophistication. As put by this teacher named Valerie Lewis, the principal of Osmond A. Church School in Queens, New York. She says it's not about teaching to a test, but teaching test sophistication, really understanding how to take tests, which is a big thing, which I've just experienced firsthand when taking the MCAT exam, which I won't go into here. The next is data-driven instruction. Take a look at this. What do you see? Well, you should see patterns. You should see patterns. If you haven't done that, then the schools that you were attending were not It's Being Done schools, or the exact opposite of that. Anyways, this is a pattern, and this goes along the lines of seeing the big picture. Schools need to see the big picture, and It's Being Done schools are able to do that because they work on seeing the big picture. Imperial High School, for example, do what I feel is demonstrated in the movie Robots. They see a need and they fill a need. They get together once, spend a day before the school year looking for patterns, And once they identified that pattern, they were able to address the issue. Um, they found a pattern in every student lacking, well, every grade level lacking vocabulary skills, and so they went and took care of that the following year, emphasizing it more, and everyone improved in that area. Personal relationship building, this is the last of Bessinger-Lacey's ideas, and it's based on the principle that going beyond high school is important. Essentially, it's best put by Imperial High School's principal Lisa Tabarez, who said, "It's not just about being successful in high school. We work for a greater accomplishment. We work for students to be successful, to take care of themselves, and take part in society." This reminded me of my beloved coach, Jesse Parker, the winningest coach in Arizona high school history. He was all about being the best, and he inspired not just me, but many of his players and students, as he was a history teacher as well, to strive for success beyond. He cared about what your life would be like, not what your high school was like, but what your life would be like in the future. And that has to do with respect for the students that you teach, and treating them with respect in the utmost ways. And you'll develop those relationships that will cause you to admire them as I admire my coach. Finally, Karin Chenoweth's idea about leadership comes into play here as well. It's really about seeing the vision, having a vision, and trickling it down within your individual classrooms. The superintendent has a vision. He gets that across the school boards. The principals have a vision. They get that across in their teachers, and their teachers have visions, and they instill it in their classrooms. And it's a common vision. Leaders also need to be able to lead, guide, and walk beside, as our Heavenly Father does, as we wish Him to do, by the power of the Spirit. And teachers can play this role as well, and principals as well. They need to get in there and walk beside, discover the weaknesses, and help lift them up. And this goes back to establishing a meaningful standard that all schools can help their students work towards so that they can be ready for life. Quick review, be one to get it done. This image might be helpful for you. Now, these aren't the ways that were mentioned in the thing, and they're not in any particular order, but EIEIO represents leadership, bringing it all together. Energy is the laser-like focus of knowing what we want kids to learn. Intelligence is the formative assessments, because you assess critical things. It is intelligence to assess weaknesses and to improve on them. Enthusiasm is teacher collaboration, because it takes a lot of enthusiasm to work with other teachers. And interpersonal skills is obviously the personal relationship building, and ongoing learning is data-driven instruction to help in the future. These are my thoughts. I hope you enjoyed it, and take care.